Good morning, Atlassians, and welcome back to another initiative briefing. This is the Pathfinder. Today, we're going to be talking about R.E.C.
Pathfinder. Welcome back.
Alright, Atlassians, so we got R.E.C. coming up, and Aephia put out a good guide. I've read through this. It's actually pretty A to Z when it comes to questions that I had about R.E.C., how the new game mode is going to work, and we're going to go over this today just so that everyone has the most information that they can get and knows how to effectively play the new resource extraction and crafting game mode. We still don't know exactly a date that it's supposed to be coming out, but that's okay because we are only really concerned in this video with what we're going to be doing and the best way to go about that. So let's get started here. Like I said, Aephia put this out. I'll put the link to this in the description below if anybody wants to pull it up and read it themselves. But the introduction, with escape velocity behind us, let's look forward to what comes next year for Sage. Escape velocity, that just talks about what that was. This is the next chapter, resource extraction and crafting. The manual, now this is talking about the manual, the actual Sage game manual, which is a little bit more detailed. But that you can find through the links in the Star Atlas Discord if you want to check that out. So R.E.C. is the first iteration of the actual Sage game. Basically what we're going to be doing, we're going to be flying around Gallia. You're going to be using your ships to control or to create a fleet, and you're going to be traveling around Gallia in search of loot and asteroids to mine. And how that's going to work is you find an asteroid, you fly up to it, and you're going to be using ammunition to kind of break up the asteroid and gain resources from that. With the resources mined this way, you will travel to the central space station of your faction or a star base controlled by your faction to craft a variety of components. So, a couple of things about this right here. The central space station is the gateway between the real world and R.E.C. Okay? And what I mean by that is the resources that we will use in R.E.C., which are going to be ammunition, food, and fuel. Okay? If you're out in space, somewhere in Gallia, mining resources, and you don't have those things actually in your fleet, you cannot use them. So if you have resources sitting in your wallet, you cannot use them in R.E.C. How this has to work is you have to deposit those resources into the central space station and then load them from the central space station into your fleet's inventory so that wherever your fleet goes, you have your resources with you. All right. Alternatively, if you find loot or resources or anything like that, and you want to get that stuff out of R.E.C., out of Sage, and out of R.E.C., and you want to get it into your wallet, your actual Phantom or Soulfare, whatever you use, to get stuff out of the game and into your wallet, you need to bring it back to the central space station, and then you can withdraw it into your wallet. All right. So the central space station is like I said, it's the gateway between us at our computers and the actual game. Star bases, you can't do the same thing with star bases, but star bases you will be able to craft at. And if you have resources at a star base, you can bring those into your ship's inventory. Star bases and the central space station have their own localized inventories, which means that you could have resources at star bases at the CSS, and then you just like hop from one to the other, refuel or resupply or whatever, and then keep it moving. Okay, but each base and the central space station, each thing will have its own inventory that you can put resources and crafting materials and all that stuff in. There is no, it says here these components can then be sold to others or stored for future use. In R.E.C. right now, there is no peer-to-peer selling of resources or stuff like that. If you get stranded out in space too with no resources, there's also no way for somebody to come rescue you. You basically just have to respawn, but we'll get to that in a minute. So it's going to have a couple of new programs, on-chain programs: movement, extraction, crafting, cargo inventory, and faction fleet. Let's see here. The map is going to be roughly the same. It's still going to be the grid that we're familiar with in EV, but it's going to be a lot more detailed. You remember in EV how it was just like that kind of map color, and you could see planets, but they were just like spheres sitting on the map. Well, now you're actually going to be able to see more detail. The fidelity is going to be better. The sectors, they'll be bigger. Graphical fidelity will be improved, and there will be more to see inside a sector. Before, we had that observe function, and it just showed the lobby floating in space. Now there's going to be a lot more stuff that we can actually see. Movement. So I mentioned earlier that one of the resources that's going to be used is fuel. The sectors are those squares, right? Remember in EV, you'd be on a square. It would show you how many ships there were and all that good stuff. That is a sector, okay? Because they're going to be larger, now instead of just sitting on a sector, you're going to actually be able to move within that sector and go to different asteroids and see different things and all that kind of stuff. Moving within a sector will not use fuel. But if you were to jump to another square or go to another sector, that will require an on-chain transaction, and that is where the fuel consumption will be. Now, there's two ways that that'll work. There's what the team is now calling sub-warp. It used to be called impulse. Now it's called sub-warp. And then there's warp. Okay, warp is faster, but it uses more fuel. Sub-warp is slower, but uses less fuel. So that's the two ways to move. And warping will have you put all of your fuel, like when the on-chain transaction happens, it will consume all the fuel that you need for your travel right then and there. Subwarp, if you just like pick a direction and go, your fuel will just slowly run out. So you definitely want to make sure that you either chart correctly or that you have enough fuel to make sure you don't get stranded. Okay, let's keep moving here. So for your fleets, you'll be using the ships that you own as NFTs. Okay. One of the things that a lot of people had questions about, when you see the fleets all listed there in score, each one has like a health, the fuel, ammo and toolkit consumption and all that kind of stuff. So people were wondering what the consumption rates are going to be. When you create a fleet, it doesn't matter what ships are part of that fleet, everything gets aggregated. So if like one ship uses 100, I'm just using rough numbers here, but if one ship has 100 as its capacity for fuel and another ship has 50, it's not going to be individualized. Like your entire capacity for that fleet will be 150. All right. And then when that runs out, your fleet can't move. It's not like when you get down to 100, that ship that only uses 50 fuel is going to be unmovable. It's all aggregated. It's all basically combined into one thing. And that goes for every resource. So that will make it a little bit easier, and you don't have to keep track of as many little things with multiple ships. That being said, when you start playing R.E.C, it's basically another on-chain program that you have to deposit your NFTs into. So in order to do that, you do need to pull them out of score. Now, I did hear Michael Wagner on a video say that basically, because this is more of an active, involved process, R.E.C is going to be more actively involved. Like, you actually have to do stuff. When you're asleep, you're not doing stuff, right? So I heard him recommend that when you're asleep, put the ships back in score. And then when you're actually actively at your computer and able to play the game, then you pull them out of score, make as many fleets as you want, and put them into R.E.C. Now, ships are going to have a point value, and fleets in this current iteration of R.E.C are only going to allow to have a certain point value, but you can have an unlimited number of fleets. So if you have too many ships and you can't put them all into one fleet, just make another fleet, and then you can build it up that way. This is just going more into the movement, like I was talking about, sub-warp. Okay, this is what I was talking about, running out of fuel. I'm actually going to read this. If you run out of fuel, your only hope is that you have some fuel in your fleet's cargo hold and that the amount there is sufficient to bring you to a nearby starbase. It could be the starbase or the CSS. Fuel stored in your cargo hold can at any time be transferred into your fuel tank. This gives you a backup tank of sorts. If you have no fuel in your cargo hold, tough luck. You will be forced to respawn, losing all items in your cargo hold. This is imperative, okay? Because the CSS is the gateway from the game to the wallet, if you don't have enough resources deposited into the game to get your ship out to the asteroids and back to a starbase or to the CSS, you will lose everything that you just worked so hard to get. And if you find some good stuff and you're one sector away and realize that you just ran out of fuel, I would be livid, dude. I would be so furious. So before you go out, before you even travel to another sector, you can even go into opposing faction space, okay? But you can't dock at opposing faction star bases. So wherever you're planning on going, please make sure you have enough fuel for the trip out and the trip back. And I'm a scuba diver. There's this saying that we have in scuba diving. It says, plan your dive and dive your plan. It means don't deviate, okay? So do the same thing. Plan your route and stick to it. If you get out there, don't have shiny object syndrome. If you get out there to where you planned as your furthest point and you know it's time to turn back, but you see something that looks interesting, go back anyway. Get more fuel, then make another route, come back out and go check out what it was that you saw. Because if you get stuck, you lose everything. So, err on the side of caution. Star paths, I remember in a previous, I forget if it was a town hall or something like that, where they were talking about the star paths. They're not available in R.E.C right now. That's going to be in the actual Sage game mode when it comes out. But star paths essentially is going to be like a really, really fast way to travel. And I don't think, oh no, it will. This mode of travel will both cost fuel and Alice, but it's like, I think it's almost like instant. So it's going to be much, much faster. Scanning. So one of the things that there was actually like an hour and 40-minute long video that Star Atlas TV put out. I'll put a link to that in the description down below as well. But that was where like Michael Wagner hopped into Discord and just started randomly sending out leaks about R.E.C and everything like that. One of the things that he mentioned was that for smaller ships, scanning might actually be more advantageous than trying to mine and gather resources. Yeah, see, benefiting smaller ships. Mining greatly benefits from bigger ships and fleet sizes. As such, the team envisions people with smaller ships and fleets for whom mining may not be very efficient. Example, extra small ships that have very limited cargo space. So if you have like 50 air bikes, it's obviously not going to really do much for cargo space. But still need to travel the same distance to starbase as the big ships and fleets. They may choose to go out and scan instead. This may prove to be more valuable for them than to mine the resources. For big ships and big fleets, the opposite will likely be true because they have larger cargo areas. Let's see. Mining. So there's 8 different resources that we can mine. There's different asteroids on the game map, and each one of them provides, I don't know if each one provides a different resource or if there will be like some asteroids that have multiple types of resources in them. But you can go to one, and then if you find another asteroid that has a different resource, you obviously travel to that one. But I know people kept hearing R20. It's actually only 8. So there's 8 different resources that can be found. Not all of them will be present on a single asteroid. Like I said, I don't know if there's going to be like maybe 2 on one asteroid. Oh, yeah, right here. Most asteroids only have a select few resources available for extraction. So maybe that will be the case. You'll be able to see the resources available and select which ones you want to mine. Your fleet will only be able to extract one resource at any point in time. Ah, okay, so that's important right there. An asteroid may have multiple resources, but you'll only be able to extract one at a time. You'll have to stop extracting that one and then switch if you want to extract another one. Cargo space of your fleet will then slowly fill up with the resource selected. You can start and stop at any point and select a different resource. Resource limits. Asteroids do not run out of resources, which is important. The only limit is your cargo hold. The amount you gather is restricted by your cargo capacity only, which is determined by the ship composition of your fleet. No limit to the amount of fleets, like I was saying. There's a point system to how big your fleet can be, but there's no limit to the amount of fleets that you can have. While you are gathering resources, your crew, in quotation marks, your ships are consuming food and ammo. The idea being that you're using the ammo to break up the asteroids, and your crew is working so they get hungry and eat. So that's while you're actually gathering resources. When you're moving, it's obviously fuel. I don't think movement uses food. I think food only gets used when you're actually gathering resources. This obviously doesn't apply to the imp ships because they are mining ships, so they're not going to use ammo while mining. So this is something that I don't want people to get confused right here, the increased rarity. It says, given the unlimited resources every asteroid provides, why would you ever want to move to an asteroid that is further away? Well, you may want to because asteroids that are located further away from the CSS offer resources with increased rarity. Note that rarity is in quotes because the real rarity depends on how many people will go for these, but you get the point. So basically, what that's saying is that it's not like there's common materials and then like rare and ultra rare materials and everything like that, but there are some materials that may not be as prevalent in the safe zones. So you may have to travel to like the medium and the high risk zones and everything like that to find the resources that are more available in those zones. Doesn't necessarily make them more rare, it just means that you have to travel further away to get them. Crafting, okay, so there's going to be 25 to 30 different items that can be crafted. The basic R4 are part of that 25 to 30, but then there's other stuff that you can craft as well. It's done by the crew members, so each ship comes with a number of crew members that match the crew member configuration listed on each ship's details in the Galactic Marketplace. As your crew members are tied to the ships, they are only available for crafting when the ships are docked at the star bases. So you can't craft in the middle of space. Costs. Besides the R8 needed to craft specific components according to their recipes, you will also have to pay a small amount of Atlas. So we don't know exactly what that amount is going to be, but basically, we now have another Atlas sink. Because whatever we craft, there's going to be a small Atlas cost. And I am actually excited for that. And I'll tell you why. Already, this is the flip side Aephia thing. It goes into like return on investments and everything like that. So the past couple of days, since July 8th, we were on like a small uptrend and then like a downtrend for return on investment. But basically what I'm looking at here, and you can cross-reference this with the actual price action of the Atlas token as well. But when you see the return on investment for a ship start to go up, it obviously means that the price of Atlas is also increasing. Now that we're going to have another Atlas sink, I could see it increasing even more. Not financial advice, that's just kind of what I'm thinking. Now the loot, I'm not really sure exactly what this meant, right? Because, when people would scan an escape velocity, they had a chance of finding loot. Now that it's gone, there's still some loot left. There's going to be a loot table. However, you're not going to find it just by scanning. I think basically what this is just saying is that you deposit crafted items into the CSS, and depending on what you're depositing, you get loot from it. I think. If anybody has a little bit more clarity on that, let me know down in the comment section. But that's basically how I gathered that. This is what I was talking about with the exporting of goods. Moving resources extracted to starbases and crafting items there is all well and good, but at some point you may want to sell these or move them to your wallet. Everything you want to take out of R.E.C, including your ships, has to go through your faction's CSS. Like I said, the CSS is the gateway between the game and your wallet. You can't do it through starbases. It has to go through the CSS. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. Like I said, we don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I am really looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be fun. I'm especially interested in seeing what can be crafted and how much loot we can gain from this, because I'm just going to be honest, part of my favorite thing about this project is the idea of making money playing a game. So I know we're not to that point yet where it's like, oh, I can quit my job and just play R.E.C all day, right? Like, I'm not that delusional. But I'm excited to see kind of what can be crafted and what the marketplace and the community and the economy will do with those new items. But yeah, guys, just wanted to go over that real quick, get everybody up to speed before the game mode comes out. Once it comes out, I am going to jump right in and do a video and just kind of go through it. I'm thinking about buying a couple of ships and not putting them into score, just so I can put those ones right into rec. But we'll see. We'll see about that. Other than that, other quick updates on the channel. No more ships that I've bought so far. My locker, you know, I got 1.5 Polis since the last video that I made, which I think was about 11 days ago. That's my rewards. Another 1.5 Polis. Oh, I did just verify my wallet and put my interest towards the proposal, the PIP1 proposal. If you haven't done so yet, go ahead and check that out. You literally only need to have 1 Polis locked in order to be a citizen of the Star Atlas political landscape, which is pretty cool. And I'm glad that that's out now. But okay, guys, that's all I got for you for today. If you like the video, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe so that you can stay up to date with future content. And if you'd like to help the channel grow even more, I've left my wallet link in the description. And if you feel like donating anything, I would be greatly appreciative. But anyway, guys, I will leave you for now. Pathfinder, out.